All right, so let's start the chapter 10 review. I forgot to start recording before I started doing this, so these first 8 I've already done. You can pause it and check your answers if you want. Remember, we're just labeling at either real, imaginary, or complex. So real, you're going to have whole numbers, you can have decimals, they can be negative. You can have square roots, like if I had a square root of 2. The thing is if there's a negative on the inside, like number 5, then that's imaginary. Okay, so negatives under the square root are imaginary, and then anything with an I is imaginary. Then your complex numbers are when you combine that real number with the imaginary number. So here I've got a real and an imaginary, and so that's when it's complex. Okay, find the value for each power of I. So let's review just our low powers of I. I to the 0 is 1. Anything to the 0 power is just 1. I to the first is square root of negative 1. I squared is negative 1, which most of you know that one. I cubed. Now here I would take 2 things. One, you can do negative square root of negative 1, or you could do just negative I. I like this one better because it's just simpler. But it does not matter to me. Okay, so what we want to do here is we're going to say, well, we want to look and see how many times 4 goes into this. And the reason we do 4 is because here there's a pattern that forms. We have 1, square root negative 1, negative 1, negative I. And then if I started over with I to the 4th, I would get 1 again. If I did I to the 5th, I would get square root of negative 1. So the pattern repeats. So we want to see how many times does this go into 4. So I'm going to do 17 divided by 4, which is 4.25. And I'm really concerned with this part. Okay, so the leftover part here is 1/4, which means I want to look at I to the first. Okay, so I'll say that again. 0.25, if you convert that to a fraction, you get 1/4. So I'm looking at this top number here is 1. So I to the first, we could just leave that as I. Or you could say square root of negative 1. Either one's fine there. Okay, so let's do 158. 158 divided by 4 is 39.5. Again, I'm looking at the leftover part here. If you convert that to a fraction, you get 1/2, but in our case, we're doing fourths, so we want to look at 2/4. So now I'm looking at the top number, so I'm looking at I squared. We know I squared is negative 1. Number 7. So we're going to take 435, divide it by 4, and I get 108.75. Looking at the leftover part, convert it to a fraction is 3/4. So I look at the top part here, I cubed. I cubed, again, you can write either one of these answers. I'm going to write negative I just because it's shorter. If you want to write negative square root of negative 1, that's fine. I'll take both answers. And the last one, 222 divided by 4, 55.5. Again, looking at this last part here, convert it to a fraction, and it would be I squared, which is negative 1. Okay, so number 9, simplify. Express each in terms of I. There should be an S there. Terms of I. Okay, so first thing you want to do, remember, on all of these, when I see that negative under the square root, is pull it out and it becomes an I. So if I take this and I pull it out, now I have 5I square root 72. And now we're just going to simplify the 72. So 2 times 36, 6 times 6. So on the outside, I take this 6. Make sure you don't forget to multiply it with the outside number. So that's going to be 30I square root of 2. Number 10. Again, first thing you do, pull out that I. So now I have I squared on the outside. And we know I squared equals negative 1. So negative 1 square root of 84. And let's see, 84 can be broken into 4 and 21. So we have a pair of 2's. So I take the 2 and I multiply with the negative 1. So negative 2 square root And I have to leave the 3 times the 7, so 21. Number 11. First thing again, pull out that negative. So we have I square root 64 over 121. Now we haven't done a fraction one in a while, but remember it's the same thing as if I do square root of 61 over square root of 121. And those are both perfect squares. So that would be I square root of 64 is 8 and square root of 121 is 11. So it's 8 over 11 I. Number 12, pull out the negative, so it would be an I on the outside. 36 is a perfect square, 6 and 6, so we have 6I. And then x to the 4th, remember we're going to take that, and this is a 2 here, so we just divide it. So we take out 2 x's, and there's nothing left. So we'll just leave it like that. Number 13. Let's do top and bottom. So on the top, if I pull out that I have I square root 24 over, and on bottom, pull it out, I square root 100. Now what happens here, the i's can cancel. So now I have square root 24 over, the square root of 100 is just 10. So let's just simplify the square root of 24. So 4 and 6. So I can pull a 2 out, and I have 6 on the inside. And then these outer ones reduce. So 2 over 10 reduces to 1 over 5. So my final answer would be square root of 6 over 5. And number 14, pull out the negative. So I square root 36, m to the 4th and squared. Square root of 36 is just 6, so we have 6i. I can take out 2 m's and 1 n. Okay, number 15. So remember, on this part, you're just going to set the real parts equal to the real parts. So if I'm looking at 15, on the left-hand side, the real parts would be 8x. And on the right-hand side, I have just this 12. Then I set the imaginary equal to the imaginary. So on the left, we have this 10i. And on the right, I have this negative 6yi. And then you just solve for x and y. So here I would divide by 8. So x equals 3 over 2. And over here, I would divide by negative 6i. So y equals, the i's cancel, so I get negative 5/3. So we'll just do one of those because those aren't super terrible. Okay, adding and subtracting. So here you're just going to combine like terms. So like on number 19, you're just adding 19 plus 16. So you'd get 35i, and you just leave it like that. On one like number 20, we're going to distribute first. So if I distribute the 2, I get negative 8 minus 4i, and then distribute the negative 4, negative 12 plus 20i. And now just combine like terms. So negative 8 minus 12 is negative 20, and negative 4i plus 20i would be positive 16i. On 21, first thing you want to do is take out the I. So if I take this out, I get 4i square root 3 plus I square root 3. So remember, you can combine radicals when they're the same. So these are the same, so I can combine the front. So I have a 4i plus a 1i would give me a 5i square root of 3. We'll jump down to 23. So here again, take out the I. So I'd have I square root 20 plus I square root 45. Now I can't combine these two, but let's simplify it first and see if we can combine it after that. So this I have 4 times 5 and 2 times 2. So this becomes 2I square root 5 plus 3i square root 5. So now I can combine those front numbers. So 2i plus 3i is 5i square root of 5. Okay, multiplying. Number 26, again, is just a distributing one, so we won't do that one. Let's jump down maybe to 27. So on 27, before you start multiplying, you have to look and see if there's any i's you can take out. So we have 3 square root 72 times 2i square root 3. Now you can simplify the 72 first and then multiply. I like to multiply and then simplify. So I'm going to multiply the outsides together, which will be 6i. And I'm going to multiply the insides together. So 72 times 3 is 216. So split up 216 is 6 and 36. So I have a pair of 6's. Don't forget to multiply it with the 6 out here. So 6 times 6 is 36i square root of 6. 28 similar. Take out the negative, so this will be 3i square root 5. And then this would be negative 6i square root 24. So now I can multiply the outsides together. So 3i times negative 6i would be negative 18i squared. And then I multiply the 5 times the 24, and I get 120. So this, remember, I squared is negative 1. So that negative 1 will make this a positive 18 square root of 120. Break that down into 4 and 30. So 18 times 2 is 36. So 36 square root of, I have a 5, a 2, and a 3. So there's a 30 left on the inside. Number 29. So here we have conjugates. We have a positive and a negative. So you can do the shortcut. You can just do 2 times 2 is 4. And then 5i times negative 5i would be negative 25i squared. I squared is equal to negative 1. So that makes it a positive 25, which is equal to 29. Now number 30, we have 5 minus 3i squared. That means I need to write out 2 of them. Notice I did not change the sign. I wrote out the exact same thing. So now we're going to FOIL or multiply. So 25 minus 15i minus 15i plus 9i squared. So combine the ones in the middle here. So 25 minus 30i plus 9 times negative 1, because I squared is equal to negative 1. So negative 9, and then 25 minus 9 is 16. So my final answer is 16 minus 30i. And the last page, division. On one like number 31, remember you want to rewrite it. So it'll be 8i cubed over 16i. So this is on top and this is on bottom. And then let's simplify. 8 over 16 reduces to 1/2. And I cubed over I, if I subtract the exponents, I get I squared. I squared is equal to negative 1, so it makes it a negative 1/2. Okay, 32. We're going to multiply by the conjugate. So I'm going to multiply by negative 5i. So here I'm going to distribute. So negative 5i minus 30i squared over, and then on the bottom we get 5i times negative 5i, so that's going to be negative 25i squared. So then let's simplify a little bit. On top, remember negative, or I squared is negative 1, so it's going to make this whole thing a positive 30. So we have a positive 30 minus 5i. So I switched the order of those over, and then this I squared makes this one a positive 25. So then we say, well, can I take anything out of all 3 of these? Well, I can take a 5 out of all 3. So that would be 6 minus 1i over 5. And then that is my final answer. Number 33. So here we're going to multiply by a negative I on top and bottom. So on the top, we're going to distribute. So it'll be negative 5I minus 11I squared over negative I squared. So remember, this I squared is negative 1, so it's going to make that a positive 11 minus 5I over, this becomes a positive 1. So nothing simplifies, so really I just have 11 minus 5I. Okay, number 34. So now we're going to change the sign in front of the I, not the 2. So I'm going to multiply by 2 minus 3I over 2 minus 3I. So on top, we multiply out, we get 6 times 2, so 12 minus 18I plus 4I minus 6I squared. And on bottom now we have conjugate, so I'm just going to do the shortcut. 2 times 2 is 4. 3I times negative 3I is negative 9I squared. So on the top, combine like terms. So 12 minus 14I, and then this I squared changes that to a positive 6 over 4, and then this I squared changes this to a positive 9. So if we simplify the top, 12 plus 6 is 18 minus 14I over 4 plus 9 is 13. So nothing you can take out of all three of those, so that is your answer.